Greetings and welcome to the Cellar Dweller video for December. D is for December. We're going to have 4 parts to the video today. Paco and I are going to go out and taste the 2024 Stagecoach Cabernet that's being worked on by Rafa outside. Pretty showy. Absolutely incredible.
Pretty excited about that. Then D's for December, but D's also for disgorging and dosage. We're talking about our sparkling wine, 2023 Sonoma Chardonnay Blanc de Blancs. It's a thing of beauty.
It is.
And it's ready to go.
It's definitely special. And then number 3, we're going to learn about the standard label run versus custom labels with Jenny Dow. She's going to walk us through the nomenclature and how that design process goes from your vision in your head to the label on the bottle. And we'll finish up with...
Very important. And lastly, we'll reach into Santa's mailbag and get the question of the month.
Thank you, Santa. So that's it. Let's go taste that cab.
All right.
It's right up here, Rob. Greetings. I am Paco Lopez.
I'm Stuart Ake.
With Stuart Ake. We're really excited. We are tasting 2024 Cabernet Sauvignon from Stagecoach Vineyard. We're tasting from a Radoux barrel that is available for adoption. Paco, we just finished the 2025 vintage, a little more restrained, elegant. 2023 was also restrained and elegant. 2024, más fuerte. Definitely a little bit more powerful. How does that express itself in the wine?
It's actually showing beautifully right now. As you're saying, 23 and 25 colder years are going to take a little bit more to mature. But this one, even though it's stronger, a little more showy, it's showing beautifully. A little riper fruit than these other 2 years, but it's pretty much going to be ready to drink shortly after bottling next June.
Even though it's a hillside property, it seems like it's going to be a little bit more approachable out of the gate. Fruit intensity is right there. So here it is, it's a year in, right? So we're actually like 13 months into the aging process. What does a winemaker look for right now at this juncture?
So pretty much now, after we finish harvest, we're doing quality control on all our lots that are aging. First of all, trying to see that everything's correct, everything's evolving nicely, and it is. And looking at the amount of new barrels versus once, twice used, third time used. See if we want to add a little bit more neo oak, or if we want to restrain it and take some of that neo oak and replace for neutral. Right now, these producers have like about 50 to 60% neo oak, or it was in 24. I think it's showing really nice. This is actually a new barrel that we're tasting. So it doesn't feel overdone.
It doesn't feel
overdone. A lot
overdone.
of the fruit and the kind of nice notes, red fruit notes are showing through the wood. It's really well integrated, so I'm enjoying this.
Since I was going to say that the wood, even though it's in a new oak barrel, doesn't seem over the top. And so will you rack this out in February or something like that? Or do you really like the trajectory of this barrel?
I think I like how it's going, and I don't think we're going to make any major adjustments on this lot. Patrick also made a really nice selection of barrels for these. We have some Baudelaire, we have some Radoux, we have some Cadoux or some Rockstar barrels on Stagecoach, which is one of our favorite lots to work with, right? So I think it's evolving as we expected and showing really nice. Actually, it's showing a little bit less over the top than I thought, because we had to wait a little longer than normal on 24 for this lot to reach all its flavor potential, and it's so actually not showing that.
So like the sugars were there, but the flavors weren't there?
Exactly. So we had to wait a little longer, a little higher sugars and more riper flavors for it to be ready to be crushed. And sometimes when you do that, you end up with a very ripe, sometimes flabby, lacking acid. But 24 was another really magical year. So even with that little waiting that we had to do, I think the wine is showing beautifully. And fruit is nice. Acid is nice, which was something that we've really liked in the past 3 years. And yeah, it made itself wait until it was ready. But I think we picked it at the right time, and right now it's showing even better than I thought.
Cheers.
So cheers.
2024 Stagecoach Cab from the Radoux barrel. Mighty impressive.
disgorging. Disgorging is removing all the sediment that's in the bottle of champagne before it's been depleted. And so, you know, double fermentation for sparkling wine is double fermentation. You make a base wine, you take that base wine, you add sugar and yeast, and you stick it back in the bottle, and then it ferments in the bottle. That's where all the bubbles come from. It's from that secondary fermentation. And so, but there's still a lot of sediment that happens during that we would want to remove. And that's called riddling, to get all the sediment down to the neck of the bottle. And so over time, we used to be done manually. Now it's done by a robot arm. A crane lifts and turns all the bottles at the same time, slowly shaking, so that all the bottles end up with all the sediment in the neck of the bottle. And so then you have all the sediment there, and we want to remove it, and it's got a beer cap. It's called a crown cap on the top of the bottle. So now everything's upside down. You stick that bottle down in a very cold solution, glycol, which is antifreeze. You can chill down to 0 degrees or so, and it makes an ice cube in the neck of the bottle. And so all the sediment is frozen in an ice cube. You'll see the video of all that in the bottles at the end. The bottles are stuck neck down into the glycol, frozen, and then turned back up, and you have an ice cube at the top of the bottle with all the sediment. And then that bottle, you take the crown cap off, the ice cube shoots out, and then you left with you need to top it up with a little extra wine and possibly a little bit of sugar. That's called the dosage. So the disgorging is that name of the process of removing all of that sediment in the yeast, is to pop it out. It's called disgorging. You riddle to get all the sediment down to the neck of the bottle, you freeze it, and then you disgorge it by popping the crown cap off. The ice cube shoots out, the wine's all clarified, but needs to be topped up with a little bit more wine, and just a teeniest little bit. This 2023 Blanc de Blanc has 0.5 grams per liter, almost zero, but it's just enough sugar to add the balance of the acid, because the wine's very acidic until then. So it's a nice combination. This is a gorgeous sparkling wine, and I can't wait till you try it. 2023 Blanc de Blanc. Cheers.
Hello, wine foundrians. Some people look at barrels and they think wine. I look at barrels, I think labels. Let's talk this month about standard run versus custom run. Let's take a deep dive. Here we go. Standard run is the proprietary term we use to describe the monthly press run. Thanks to the relationship we have with our printer Fortis, we have a set number of cutting dies, a set kind of paper we print on, and all of the label art is straightforward printing. Printing this way is included in with your barrel purchase. During the standard run, we have set sizes for your labels. When printing, they are grouped together by size and printed at the same time. When we speak about a custom run, we are talking about sending label art to press that has embellishments such as foil stamping, embossing, and/or perhaps a size not part of our standard run. An estimate will be created as an upgrade expense. And that's it for our talk on standard run versus custom run. I hope it was helpful. And now, time for Santa's mailbag.
Greetings. I'm so excited to be reaching into the mailbag. Well, not literally into the mailbag, but the figurative mailbag. I'm joined by Mary and Larry Ivins in chilly Lake Norman, North Carolina, right around the lake. Beautiful area. Hey, before we get to your question, Larry, do you want to what's your journey into wine as a couple, and how did you end up in the wine foundry community?
Well, we started with the wine foundry in 2022, but we really started with Stu back at Crush Pad in probably the late 90s, early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
And we started out with a barrel of 22 Broken Rock Cabernet Sauvignon, planning on making one barrel, and we're now up to 4. So it just keeps progressing.
Sorry about that. But thank you for bringing so much to the community, and you've made a variety of different wines with the Semillon, Sangiovese, so it's really, really exciting that you have that thirst for knowledge and a curiosity about unique grape varietals. You also have a curiosity about wine making. Mary reached into the mail.
Yes.
What's your question for the month?
Well, Stu, we'd like to understand why and when you use sulfates in wine production, and what the wine foundry thoughts are on what sulfate levels are best.
Okay, so the sulfite question is a big one and asked all the time. Like, what is the reasoning behind it? When do we do it? Is it important? There's a lot of information and misinformation out there. So to help us separate the wheat from the chaff, I guess we're going to bring in the winemaking team. Patrick Saboe, do you want to grab this one? The wonderful world of sulfites.
Well, Mary and Larry, good question. Thank you for asking about sulfites. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked about sulfur with regards to wine and with regards to winemaking and wine drinking. So I really appreciate the question. Most people are very confused on the subject. So I would very much like to take this opportunity to set the record straight for everyone watching right now about sulfur. So first and foremost, sulfur is your friend. So you see on the bottle of wine, it says contains sulfites. So this is the only thing that when using sulfur that we have to put. Alcohol is a different product, as you know, and the government treats it differently. And so the labeling requirements are such. So a number of compounds and a number of things you might already take in on a daily basis contain sulfur. This labeling requirements do not require that. So first and foremost, sulfur is the number one used fungicide in the world for fruit production. So when you're farming apples or peaches or oranges or grapes, you're going to need some sort of fungicide to protect the fruit against mildew from happening, because all fruit mildew wants to take over. So every 2 weeks from the 6 inches of growth till the grapes turn color, you every 2 weeks you spray sulfur on the vine. So that happens in the vineyard. So that's so that the grapes don't get moldy. In the winery, we use sulfur a few different times. We use sulfur immediately when the grape juice comes in, the grapes come in. We add a little bit of sulfur so the fermentation doesn't happen immediately, and we kind of start things on our own and allow things to kind of controlled naturally through the process. That happens a few times during the wine. Once the wine is complete, once it's finished primary fermentation and secondary malolactic conversion has happened, we want to add sulfur to the wine to kind of keep the status quo more as is. So what sulfur does is an antimicrobial. So if you add just the smallest little bit, you're talking 20 to 30, 40 parts per million, so very small amounts in a barrel of wine, but just a small amount depending on the pH. So one of your questions was when and how much. The how much part has to do with the wine and the pressure on the wine to become microbially impacted. So if I want to lower the impact of the microbes, I want to keep sulfur to a higher level in there. And it's based on pH, and there's some other numbers that you're probably less interested in specific on quantity, but there's a way to calculate how much protection you have. And the sulfur really is the protection in the wine, kind of helping to minimize oxidation, but more importantly, helping to minimize the impact of some potential negative microbes. And so once the fermentation is complete and we want to kind of maintain the status quo, that's when we add sulfur to it. And we're adding 20, 30, 40 parts per million, which is again a very small amount. But what that does is the smallest little bit is it keeps the wine more and fresh and in line with what we have, and less likely to go towards vinegar and other non-desirable products. So mostly to do with about safety and kind of freshness. And so the amount of sulfur, so there's no combination or connection to headaches and sulfur. So if you think that you might get a headache because you've had wine with sulfur in it, you're incorrect. There's other compounds in wine that would cause a headache type of reaction. It's definitely not sulfur. So anyhow, we just like the Europeans use with whites and reds, we've kind of mimicked that tradition here in the U.S. So we add sulfur to keep the wine fresh and viable and safe and yummy and delicious for a long time. Again, to be clear, sulfur is your friend. If you want it to be a delicious wine, let's go sulfur. So, cheers.